Thank you, Senator Kelly. Senator Scott, please.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. First, thanks both of you for being here. Thank you for what you do. General Whiting, can you talk about the how much dependence our defense capabilities or our offensive capabilities are on our satellite systems?
Yes, Senator, thank you for the question. The Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, our terrestrial forces, if you will, are sized with the implicit assumption they will have access to space capabilities. And because of that, we've been able to, reduce the number of forces that we have, and we can now prosecute targets with much fewer assets than we would have decades ago. If we don't have access to those space capabilities, if those forces do not have access to those space capabilities, we don't have the force structure that we would need to fight without them. So that's why we have to protect and defend these space capabilities against the threats we now see arrayed against us.
How many different satellite systems are we dependent on?
Senator, I don't have a number, but I can talk to you just quickly about the capabilities. It's our satellite communications, it's our global positioning system, it's our intelligence systems, it's our weather systems, it's our missile warning systems. There's a host of different capabilities we provide from space.
So if our adversary was able to demolish 10 of them, all right, would it create much debris?
Almost certainly, yes, Senator.
And how much, if that debris was floating out there, how much of our satellites would be at risk because of just the debris hitting them?
Senator, that is a concern, and it's why we monitor the 45,000 trackable objects on orbit to watch for potential conjunctions, but we don't want to proliferate debris on orbit, which would increase the risk to our systems.
So if you were an adversary, wouldn't that be the cheapest thing to do? If you wanted to cripple our ability, wouldn't be the cheapest thing to do is go blow up 10 or 12 of these large satellites that are out there?
Sir, I don't know the cost of that, but it would certainly be incredibly reckless because it would pollute the very domain they're probably trying to operate in themselves because it's indiscriminate. It impacts potentially our satellites, their satellites, other countries' satellites, and it would be incredibly reckless behavior.
Let's take Russia's forces. So if you look at our forces as compared to Russia's forces, how dependent are they on the satellite systems as compared to us?
Senator, they are less dependent for the reason that they are a continental power and they expect to be able to run fiber and to do microwave shots and those kind of things, and they don't have the same global type military that we do, so they are less dependent.
How about China?
So they have replicated in many ways what we have done in space because as they try to push us out from the first island chain and the second island chain in the Pacific, they have gone to space for the advantages it brings. So in many ways, they are working to replicate the dependency that we have.
So if they were able to hamper our ability to use our satellite system, let's take China, and they were only focused on Taiwan or Japan or well, for sure, Korea, right? And they don't need their satellite system to do anything with regard to Korea, right?
Senator, I think China, they are getting to the point where all of their forces are becoming space-enabled. And so I think in any conflict, they would be reliant on space capabilities.
Okay. But if only the power they wanted to project was Korea, Taiwan, Japan, and that's all they cared about, then they probably wouldn't need their space capabilities as much, would they?
Senator, I think they would need those space capabilities because they're looking beyond those countries and looking at the U.S. and looking at where the U.S. would be flowing forces from, and that has required them to go to space.
Okay. How about Iran? They don't need it, right?
Iran is not a space-enabled military.
Right. No, and they don't really, do they even have the ability to have any impact on us in space today?
They have not demonstrated that capability, but certainly we are watching their space program and their ballistic missile program very carefully and can only think about what they might be thinking about in the future.
And what about North Korea?
North Korea has demonstrated an electromagnetic warfare capability that could have impact against our space systems, and then we're also very carefully watching their space systems. Of course, they should not be launching into space because of the UN resolutions that say they can't use ballistic missile technology for that. And so again, we're having to keep an eye on what they might be thinking of in the future.
But our troops in Korea they need access to space capabilities. In North Korea, they probably don't.
North Korea is not a space-enabled military today.
But our troops in South Korea would need it.
Absolutely, Senator.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Senator Rosen, please.